Let us for a few moments pray to Sri Ramakrishna for the welfare of the whole humanity. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us pray to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We are discussing the topic how to go towards God. The same topic I am continuing today also. Only you must know the technique of conducting yourself. Then you will not lose the spiritual track. Otherwise, you may think you are living spiritual life, but in reality, it may not be true, because you have to follow certain technique of not losing the spiritual track, consciously or unconsciously. That means you must be fully aware every moment of your life. You must be conscious of your spiritual track. If you are aware of that, then you can take immediate steps if the corrections need to be taken. What is it that bothers a person in the world which takes him away from God? In other words, the person very much in the world doesn't have any inclination towards God. He doesn't feel comfortable to think of God since he's too much in the world. That means the worldly pulls are so much attractive, and he is just duped by them. He just feels these attractions of the world are so fascinating, and he feels that he is having a very pleasurable joy, pleasurable life. So why should we have to think of God or whatever it is? I am enjoying my life, and there is nothing else to be achieved. Well, such a person concludes that the purpose of his life in this world is to enjoy. But it doesn't allow you to enjoy simply. It is always followed by some unpleasantness, some irksomeness, some irritations, some botherations, leading to some kind of suffering. So, when the suffering becomes unbearable, then he begins to think, what is this? Why I am suffering? Is there God to help me? Then he begins to open his eyes and tries to think of help, taking help from God. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells, why don't you take precautionary measures in the beginning itself? Why do you burn your finger and then apply the ointment? Why don't you take the steps in order you are not burning your fingers? So preventive measures are very important. That means you must not go too much into the world. What will happen? You will not be able to get up from the world at all. And you will be in total confusion and a state of utter hopelessness. So, it is very wise to look to the divine teachings of the holy people, of the incarnations of God, who have lived the life and then have given out their practical experiences in the form of teachings. So the teachings have got full meaning. They mean what they say. It's not simply a statement. It is a statement of fact. It's a statement of experience. That's why the teachings of Mahatmas are always very significant, and if you are sincere, you are bound to be influenced by those ideas, and once you try to apply them into your life, you feel tremendous joy and peace, and you feel confident, and you feel lot of hope, and you feel secured, you become fearless. All these things happen. So, Sri Ramakrishna is giving his teachings. These teachings are the product of his own experience in spiritual life. What Sri Ramakrishna has said is remarkably effective, and any person who wants to go in the spiritual path must follow these instructions. They are all helpful. And if you have, they are like a guidebook. They guide you. Do this like this, go like this, go this way, go that way, etc. So here Sri Ramakrishna is pointing out this ocean is, this world is compared to an ocean. Ocean, there are just like wild animals on the ground, there are wild animals under the water. There's a whale, and so many wildlife, water animals are there, which kill a person if they get a chance. So, in the ocean, you always see these wild animals. And Sri Ramakrishna refers to alligators. Alligators or crocodile. We have got in this Science and Industry Museum. You can go and see how the crocodile. Its skin is like it's very, very thick. Even if you drop a sword on it, it won't make any dent on the skin. It is so tough. And its tail is like a razor, like a sawing equipment. It is so sharp. And that animal is very powerful inside the water. Sometimes it comes on the ground, but on the ground it is not strong. But inside the water it is very strong. Once a person is caught by a crocodile, very difficult to get over. Very difficult to get release from it. So, crocodiles are the wild animals. They are hungry. They want to catch the food. Anything that comes in their view, they simply grab it and kill. So, one has to be cautious about the alligators when one enters into the water. And who are these alligators in this ocean of the world? Sri Ramakrishna points out very clearly. One is excessive passion. Another is terrible anger, terrible greed, terrible delusion, terrible egoism. Each one is terrible. And Sri Ramakrishna tells, 6 alligators are there. 1 alligator is enough to kill a person. 6 alligators are there in every one of us. That means, unless you are watchful, you become victim to one of these alligators. Either you become a victim of the passion, or you become a victim of anger, or you become a victim of greed, or you become a victim of egotism. Your life is gone. How can you expect real peace and real joy and vision of God, etc.? Impossible. First you kill these alligators. Be fully secured. Or you must take some certain steps so that these alligators don't bother you. If you are able to take those steps, then the alligators don't bother you and you can go on very well. You can swim very well in the ocean. So, how to keep these alligators away from attacking? And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. He says, if a person smears his body with a turmeric paste, whole body is covered with turmeric. It is yellow powder. And then enter into water, alligators don't come. Somehow, probably they are allergic to the turmeric. So, you must apply the turmeric paste. Then you enter. So, in order to enter the ocean of the world, in order you are not being destroyed by the worldliness, you must apply the turmeric. turmeric of love of God, discrimination, and dispassion. These three constitute the turmeric. The combination of these three, love of God, analytical approach, that is always constantly figuring out what is good and what is bad, and discarding the bad, and then to be dispassionate. These constitute turmeric. Sri Ramakrishna gives nice examples how one should be very careful in the beginning of spiritual life. Because you have to build up your life. You must become strong spiritually. So, you must take all steps so that you become qualified to achieve God. How much steps, how much attention you have to pay, very important. So, Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. Suppose there is a sapling of a tree. It is planted on the roadside. And simply if you plant and go, after 1 or 2 days if you come and see, you may not see the sapling at all there. Because it has been trampled by some cattle or sheep or whatever the animals they walk through, or some dogs. So the sapling, there's every possibility the sapling might be destroyed. So it needs protection. Protection against cattle, against all animals. So it needs protection in the beginning. The sapling needs protection in the beginning. Once it becomes strong, once the trunk becomes strong, thick and strong, then there is no difficulty. Even the elephant may be tied to the trunk of the tree. The tree is not shaken. It is very strong. And he gives another example. Suppose you are playing a game of hide and seek. It's very popular in India, I don't know in America. Hide and seek. They bind the eyes with a cloth. And a group, maybe 10 or 15, whatever the number. The game is the person should touch the granny. The eyes are closed by the bandage, so he cannot see. But he must somehow sense somehow, and try to touch the granny. Then he is released. Then he wins the game. So Sri Ramakrishna is taking that example. While playing the game of hide and seek, you are safe if you but touch the granny. You are safe because your bandage is removed. And he gives another example. It's a mythological term. It's called as philosopher's stone. Any metal, if it come in contact with this particular stone, it turns into gold. Any metal. So after that, if that particular material which turned into gold, even though it was buried underground for many, many years, after some time if you take out, you see it is still gold. So, how to keep the mind untainted from the worldliness? Sri Ramakrishna gives a very nice analogy how to do that. He says, first extract the butter of devotion and knowledge from the milk of the mind, and then keep the transformed mind in the water of the world. It will float in the world unattached. What a nice way of putting it. But if the mind in its unripe state, that is to say, when it is just like liquid milk, if it is kept in the water of the world, what will happen? The milk and water will get mixed. In that case, it will not be possible for the mind to attain its aim of self-realization. He gives another example. Once two holy men were wandering. They entered a city. One of them, he was just enjoying for the first time they have come to see the city. They were so joyful to see the clean roads and beautiful architectural buildings, and they were, and this particular one person I'm referring to, he was enjoying the beauty of the place and looking at the marketplace, the stalls and the buildings. He was just enjoying the sight. When he was wandering that way, he met his companion, the other one, who also had come to the city to see. That person, he said to this first one, well, it seems you are filled with wonder at the city. You are enjoying every moment. Well, what happened to your luggage, your baggage? Because each one carried some baggage. Then that friend replied, oh, baggage? If I had carried that baggage along with me, I would be always worried about my baggage. And I could not freely enjoy the sight. So what I did was, as soon as I entered into the city, first I went to see whether a room is available so that I can put my baggage there. I found out a room, put all my things there, and locked the doors, and finally I felt relieved. Then I came to see the city, and now I am enjoying every bit of the fun. So that's the way. You have to hold on to God, and then you carry on your duties. You are safe. But a question may be asked, is it possible for a householder to fix his mind on God while he was engaged in various worldly duties? He has got so many things to do. Mind is just totally occupied by those ideas of doing this and doing that and so on. And all his energy is utilized in filling up the mind with those things, and it may be very difficult, it may not be possible at all for him to fix his mind on God. So what's the way? Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful illustration of it. He takes the example of a woman of the carpenter family selling the flattened rice. And Sri Ramakrishna is referring to that lady, how she was very alert and how she was doing her business. You see, she must be always watchful about the pestle of the husking machine that flattens the paddy. Because that machine constantly falls into the hole of the mortar, and the lady turns the paddy in the hole with one hand and with the other holds her baby on her lap, and she is nursing the baby. In the meantime, the customers come. The machine goes on pounding the paddy, and she carries on her bargains with the customers. So, all these things she is doing at the same time, being watchful over her hand, because the pestle she is constantly pounding. If by chance the pestle drops on her hand would be gone. And at the same time, her attention is upon her baby, which she is carrying with her. At the same time, she is talking to the customer, bargaining about selling the product. All these things she is doing. This is called the yoga of practice. And Sri Ramakrishna is telling, well, you study her mind. 15 parts of her mind out of 16 are fixed on the pestle of the husking machine, lest it should pound her hand. So, 15 parts of our mind, that is, most of our mind is on that. Only one part of our mind is given to other things, nursing the baby, talking to buyers, etc. And he takes this example and tells how a householder should live his life. So that means a person living in the world, worldly life, how he should be careful about his mind. 15 parts of his mind should be focused on God. Otherwise, he will face ruin and fall into the clutches of death. So, what about the duties? Certainly he should do the duties, but he should perform the duties of the world with only one part of his mind. But if you study the life of a person in modern times, most of the mind is gone to the world, let alone fixing 15 parts of the mind. Even one unit of the mind also is not fixed on God. It has become impossible for the modern man to spare even a few minutes to think of God. He expects some magic to happen. He expects some holy man to come and touch his head and do some miracle. See, so then only, if you follow this instruction, then only you will be able to concentrate on God, and this is called the yoga of practice. How to do that? How to make yourself, most of the mind, occupied by God? There are methods. One method is, Sri Ramakrishna tells, repeat the God's name all the time. It's not that when you are going and working, it doesn't mean you should not think of God. Instead of thinking all dirty things in the mind, think of God. In fact, when you think of God and do the work also becomes efficient. You'll be always aware, I am thinking of God, I must be perfect in doing the work. I must be sincere and honest. They all go together. So, repeating God's name every moment, every day, and praying to God every day, prayers and thinking of God, repeating His name, these things will create a longing in your heart. Longing. So once you repeatedly think of a particular thing, you begin to love it. Well, Sri Ramakrishna tells, when you are living in the world as a householder, you have to take steps to fortify yourself. How to do that? With love of God, bhakti. Develop love. Because it's only through love of God you can have His vision, which is the supreme purpose of life. So, in order to cultivate love of God, spiritual discipline is required. Longing is a means of realizing your real self. One must strive to attain God with all his body, with all his mind, and with all his speech. By thinking day and night of God, one acquires the nature of God. If you are constantly thinking of God, you get godly qualities. So, those who lead householder's life should give proper attention for the practice of spiritual disciplines. It's more important for the householders, because in householder's life there's always great danger of losing your spiritual track. So, you have to be very prompt and serious about doing things which take you towards God. It will not simply do to say, Sri Ramakrishna again gives the example, milk contains butter. If you keep on simply telling, in what way it nourishes your system, you must let the milk set into curd and then churn it, and only then you get butter from it. And then if you take that butter, you get nourishment. Similarly, what will you gain by merely uttering the word of Siddhi? There's a particular variety of intoxicant in India. It's called Siddhi. A man doesn't become intoxicated even by rubbing Siddhi on his body, because he's doing it in a wrong way. He must swallow it in order to have the effect of intoxication. He gives another example. You will not get a fish sitting by the side of the pond and simply repeating fish, fish, fish. Fish will not come. Even if fish comes, you can't catch it. What you have to do? You have to make some arrangements for catching it. You must have spiced bait, and you must throw them into the water. You must have a line and a rod. And at the smell of the bait, the fish will come from the deep water, and then you can catch it. So one cannot see God by simply repeating God exists. Simply telling it won't make you progress at all in the path. What is needed is sadhana. Sadhana means practice. So the aspirant must be up and practicing hard sadhanas in the beginning. After that, one need not work hard, just as no protection is needed for the tree once it has grown up. Once the mind becomes mature by hard practices, then all these things which you have been doing, worship, meditation, japa, prayer, etc., and one doesn't have to continue formal worship for long, because his mind has been saturated with the idea of God and is having the fruit of that. The mind then always remains united with God. Meditation and contemplation become a constant habit of the mind. He loves to think of God, and his mind naturally dwells on God. The helmsman stands up and clutches the rudder firmly as long as the boat is passing through waves, storms, big wind, or around curves of the river. But then he relaxes after steering through them. As soon as the boat passes the curves and the helmsman feels a favorable wind, he sits comfortably and just touches the rudder. Then he prepares to unfurl the sail and gets ready for a smoke. He feels perfectly relaxed. Likewise, the aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of lust and gold. And now Sri Ramakrishna gives another important instruction, which is very essential for us to follow. Because Lord Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad Gita the importance of going into solitude. So, go to solitude to practice spiritual discipline and call on God with intense love. Sri Ramakrishna points out that you can't do spiritual disciplines. Rather, it is very difficult to do spiritual disciplines in the householder's surroundings, because the atmosphere is entirely different. The atmosphere is totally different. That's why you feel the difference when you come to the chapel. You feel remarkable peace and calmness. And you feel the difference. What is the atmosphere in the home? What is the atmosphere in the bazaar? What is the atmosphere in the forest? What is the atmosphere in the temples? What is the atmosphere in the chapels, in the monasteries, and so on? Everywhere it has got its own vibrations and it influences the people. So, in the surroundings of the householders, you will not be able to practice any discipline. Even if you try to practice, somebody will come and pull you. See, many years back in America, I had gone to New Jersey on a program. And I stayed in a particular home of the devotee. And as usual, morning I went there and sat in front of the shrine. And the host was doing the worship. I was just participating, just meditating on God. What happened? I observed how the host was performing the worship. He is no doubt sitting on the meditation seat and offering his worship to God. He is doing that. In the meantime, phone calls come there. And he picks up the phone. That means the service is distracted. See, you are doing the service, at the same time you are taking the phone, and not one time. At least I saw about 6 to 7 times the host was picking up the phone. Every moment the call comes and he picks up. Why not he put away the phone? Till he completes his worship, even the phone comes, he will not hear. He should take some steps like that. Otherwise, what kind of discipline it is? See, I should say it's a carelessness. They must have the benefit of doing the worship of God. At the same time, they don't want to miss anything of the world. This kind of worldly wisdom will not work. That's the idea of worship. What is the idea of worship? Why do we offer worship here? Worship means you are directly doing service to God. God means you are seeing Him. It is a life. Oh Lord, please take this. Please take this. I offer this. I offer this. Please protect everyone. Please help us, etc., etc. What we say in English, they're all put in Sanskrit. That's all. It's a communication actually. You are just speaking to God in the service. So when the mother gives the bath to the child, she takes the child, gives the bath and cleans the child body with a towel and then puts on clothes, etc., etc. All these things she is doing on the baby, and she loves the baby and the baby loves the mother. And her whole attention is there on serving the child, and she serves so affectionately. Same attitude we must have when you do worship. Same attention. You must not deviate and you are doing worship, at the same time you turn your head and speak to a fellow who is coming here visiting. Hello, when did you come? What kind of worship you are doing? You can say hello afterwards. See, we are not very attentive about things. We take in a very casual way. Do you think spiritual life is possible in a casual way? No. It has to be done with utmost attention, love and devotion. Then you will see the beauty of it. So, Sri Ramakrishna is telling you, surroundings is very important. You can't practice spiritual discipline in the marketplace. So, you have to go to a place where you have got that atmosphere. That's the meaning of asking you to go to solitude. So that when you come to solitude, you must do practice. Not coming to solitude and here also go on chatting whole day. What are you chatting? Chatting the same worldly things. Then why did you come here? What kind of spiritual practice you are doing? Instead of filling this atmosphere with spiritual ideas, you are filling it with worldly things. You are talking worldly matters, this, that, etc. No. What I mean to say, if you are very attentive about your spiritual practices, you have to be very careful, and every moment is precious. You are consciously doing things. You are here to think of God, and you are struggling to think of Him. It's worth struggling. So, Sri Ramakrishna is telling you, so you must go to solitude now and then, in order to do practices. The mind cannot dwell on God if it is immersed day and night in worldliness, in worldly duties and worldly responsibilities. And hence, they need to go into solitude now and then to think of God. Again, in home, there are many handicaps: disease, grief, poverty, misunderstanding, disobedient, stupid and stubborn children, disharmony, all these things. You are amidst them. How can you think of spiritual practice? Tree when it is young, otherwise it may be destroyed by cattle. Sri Ramakrishna says that the worldly man is suffering from a delirious fever, and that it can be cured only if he goes into solitude. Well, let us try to follow these most important spiritual instructions of Sri Ramakrishna. I hope I will continue the same topic next Tuesday. Page 641. Sri Ramakrishna was resting. The Marwari devotees had been singing bhajan on the roof. They were celebrating the Krishna festival. Arrangements had been made for worship and food offering. At the host's request, the master went to see the image. He bowed down before the deity. Sri Ramakrishna was profoundly moved as he stood before the image. With folded hands he said, "O Govinda," that is the name of the Lord, "Thou art my soul, Thou art my life. Victory to Govinda. Hallowed be the name of Govinda. Thou art the embodiment of Satchidananda. O Krishna, O Krishna, Krishna is knowledge, Krishna is mind, Krishna is life, Krishna is soul, Krishna is body, Krishna is caste, Krishna is family. O Govinda, my life and soul." Uttering these words, Sri Ramakrishna went into Samadhi. He remained standing. Ram Chatterjee supported him. After a long time, the master regained consciousness of the world. The Marwari devotees were about to take out the image. The offering of food was to take place outside the room. The master joined the procession of devotees. The food was offered with arati and music. Sri Ramakrishna fanned the image. Then began the ceremony of feeding the Brahmins. They were seated on the roof. The master and his devotees also partook of the prasad. Sri Ramakrishna took leave of the host. It was evening, and the street was jammed as before with people and vehicles. He said, "Let us go out, let us get out of the carriage. It can go by a back street." Proceeding on foot, he found that a betel leaf seller had opened his stall in front of a small room that looked like a hole. One could not possibly enter it without bending one's head. The master said, "How painful it is to be shut in such a small space." That's the way of worldly people. And they are happy in such a life. The carriage came up after making the detour. The master entered it with Baburam, M. and Ram Chatterjee. The younger Gopal sat on the roof of the carriage. A beggar woman with a baby on her arm stood in front of the carriage waiting for alms. The master said to M, "Have you any money?" Gopal gave her something. The carriage rolled along Burra Bazaar. Everywhere there were signs of great festivity. The night was dark but illuminated with myriads of lights. The carriage came to the Chitapur road, which was also brightly lighted. The people moved in lines like ants. The crowd looked at the gaily decorated stores and stalls on both sides of the road. There were sweetmeat stores and perfume stalls. Pictures, beautiful and gaudy, hung from the walls. Well-dressed shopkeepers sprayed the visitors with rose water. The carriage stopped in front of a perfume stall. The master looked at the pictures and lights and felt happy as a child. People were talking loudly. He cried out, "Go forward, move on." He laughed. He said to Babu Ram with a loud laugh, "Move on." "What are you doing?" The devotees laughed too. They understood that the master wanted them to move forward to God and not to be satisfied with their present state. We shall stop here. Any questions? Yeah. It is possible, but you have to follow what Sri Ramakrishna said. That means you have to practice, you have to undertake spiritual disciplines. 15 parts of your mind must be given to God. If you have to get moksha in this very life. That means 15 parts of the mind must be clean. Unless it is clean, you can't give the mind to God. What is unclean? Unclean means mind is filled with thoughts other than God. That's called unclean mind. Clean mind means portion of the mind which is thinking of God, that portion of the mind is clean. It's pure. So one has to practice. That's what is needed. It's possible. It's difficult, but not impossible. That's the. Anything else? But to do that, you must first your mind must be set on God. If the mind is not set on God, how can you dedicate? The idea of dedication itself doesn't come. So that means that's the way how you have to set your mind, setting the mind on God. Set the mind on God, and then according to your capacity, according to your temperament, you choose what path you want to do. But setting the mind is important. Without setting, you may go any path, you will not get any result. First, the mind should be set properly, in a proper way. Everything must be done in a very systematic way. Spiritual life means systematic life. Yeah. Anything else? We shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drown deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased, he being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.